Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so good morning. It is Thursday morning. I believe it's Thursday. I didn't check, but I'm pretty sure it's Thursday. And Ticket TV woke me up with some content talking about Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers. So I figured I'd piggyback that and share the information given. Uh, they're not going to offer Kawhi Leonard his extension. It's a 4-year extension that Kawhi's looking for. Not sure what it would be, but he ain't getting it from the Clippers, from what I understand. Um, Now, of course, there are options for the Clippers. They don't necessarily have to just move on from Kawhi. They could obviously re-sign him to a lesser deal that would not be what he's expecting, but could certainly be re-signed. Uh, but usually, when you see stuff like this, it shows that the team's ready to move on. Team's tired of the injuries and all of the load management, and they have not reached their level of success that they're looking for. They had a dream about winning championships. When you put those guys together, you trade for Paul George, you give away half of your future, maybe more than half in this situation. Um, Kawhi obviously uh, makes it so that you have to do that, which is something I thought was a little misguided, given the fact they would have to give up so much to make it happen. Didn't really have a whole lot in place when doing it. Uh, but they were hell bent on matching the Lakers' fire. They were hell bent on building something special at the same time we did, so that we wouldn't one up them. And that's always been the story with the Clippers to me. They've always been trying to, throw rocks at the Lakers, more or less, try to put themselves in a position to be seen as better than the Lakers for a time, but never actually really doing anything that would put them in a position to actually be respected that way. And that's been my argument with the Clippers the whole time. The priorities have not necessarily been championship for themselves. It's been, let's be better than the Lakers at a given year. And it's just not the way to go. They need to, in my humble opinion, refocus, reset, and have a building process that does not have the Lakers in mind, but has the field in mind, and try to build a team that can actually win a championship. Not do little moves to try to one up the Lakers on some corny stuff. It doesn't lead to anything at all. And that's been my point of view as a Laker fan. I just felt like from the front office all the way down to the fans, it's all been about how can we be better than the Lakers? How can we get out of the Lakers' shadow this year, as opposed to how can we win ourselves our first championship and start the process of being a relevant franchise. Um, and so that's what I think. I think the Clippers are finally going to start becoming. I think Steve Ballmer is in a space where he's been in LA for a couple of years now as an owner here. He knows that the Lakers are the team to beat. He probably understands that he's not going to take over the market at all. But what he can do is start the process of doing things properly for the very first time with that organization. When I say the very first time, the very first time. Just start doing things the right way and see the results come to pass. And I think they have a real opportunity to do that. They just drafted a kid that I really like a lot in Kobe Brown. They got Terrence Mann. As we mentioned, the Clippers got some players that I think, should be covetable, but I don't know if they have enough of them to get James Harden, if they have enough assets um, at this point to make it happen. Now, could they trade a few things to make things better? I think Norman Powell could probably get you a nice return. I don't know what nice means, but a good return for what he's expected to be. You probably get a nice player for him. Terrence Mann, young player, you can get something for him. Coffee just got in a little bit of trouble with a, had gotten caught with a firearm out here in LA. That's illegal, so that's the trouble we're referring to. And he's a young player who I think also needs some opportunities, maybe a fresh start somewhere else. Uh, you know, it's a lot there, but at the end of the day, when I look at the Clippers, the true problem that they have is just they're too old for one. And not only are they old, but they're not good old. They don't have old players that I can rely upon to really do anything for me. They have names, but like Marcus Morris, his contract's like $20 million a year. What the hell am I doing with that? As I said, Norman Powell's a nice player, but is he getting better? Of course not. These are the type of things. Kawhi and PG, those are your stars. Is there any upside whatsoever there? No. Are you close to a championship? Absolutely not. So it's like, what are we doing? Zubats. Nice center. Any upside anymore? Nah, he's pretty much who he's going to be. Is that getting you over the hump? Of course not. Like, it's up and down the roster with this team, and it's just like, yo, they keep wanting to kick the can down the road. I thought one of the worst trades I had seen was Luke Kennard for uh, uh, Eric Gordon in 2023. That is just not something that should be done at all. Eric Gordon stayed there for 3 minutes and is now a Phoenix Sun. It was a trade that shouldn't have happened. Uh, Luke Kennard should still be with the Clippers. They should be looking to extend him. Stuff like that. It's just like, yo, this is why I'm of the mindset that the Clippers need new leadership. Not necessarily, obviously, Ballmer's in place. He's good. But, they've been letting the same people GM and run that team the whole time. And now it's time for them to get a fresh start in that way. I really believe that. Jerry West, of course, you're going to keep Jerry West around. Jerry West is proven. But Jerry West is also in this stage in his life where, there are other people who could be making those decisions too while he's in there consulting. Let's just be honest. That's just where we're at. So Lawrence Frank has been great. Far be it from me to tell y'all the Clippers need to do everything new because I don't follow them close enough to know all is wrong. I know they're, one of their executives, it might have been their GM or assistant GM, took the Wizards president's position, so they have some leadership shifts there, and maybe that would explain why some things have changed in regards to the direction. But at the end of the day, I'm not in love with the dream of let's get older. That's not going to work. They brought back Russell Westbrook. I don't have a problem with that. Russell on a $4 million contract this year is great. That's great. That's a good contract for anybody. You know what I mean? They got some good stuff, I would say, but not anything that I can keep while trying to get better. You see what I'm saying? Anything that I have on that Clipper team that's of value needs to go in order for me to get as good as I need to be. And that is what I see there. That's exactly what I see there. And trying to bring themselves James Harden, to me, this news coming out is signaling to me that they're not getting anywhere on that trade. Because if they were, I don't think we would be hearing negative news about Kawhi Leonard's tenure with the team in any way. And again, he can restructure to a smaller, lesser deal that would signal to me in some ways that they could fit a guy like James Harden in even more so if this is the goal. You see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to give some pushback to what it is I just said, because there is a world where because Kawhi is not re-signing for big money, they could probably bring in more salary. But I don't think that's the direction. I think that the tea leaves are showing me that the Clippers aren't getting anywhere with the James Harden trade. They aren't too excited about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George anymore. They've probably been listening to people like myself telling them to blow it up before their building opens. And I think they're finally starting to understand that that's probably the best thing to do. Blow it up is that's one direction you can take, but it's not necessarily the fullness of what I'm saying. They just got to do something else. They can retool, whatever. But I do believe that it is a time for the Clippers to shift entirely. And if they're willing to move Paul George, I really believe they could still get a nice return. I don't think you get like 4 picks for him, but you could probably get two and some change, so to speak. 2 first rounders, couple swaps, nice player, Paul George. I think you could probably pull something like that off. And Kawhi Leonard probably still has some value out here. He does, because he's a player who, if nothing else, if I can get him on the floor, at the very worst, he's going to give me some Chris Middleton. He's going to be highly efficient shooting the ball, highly efficient scoring, and he's going to help me defensively because that's one of his strengths in general. So he's not a difficult player to slot into any situation anywhere in the league. But if he's going to want to continue to make the type of money that he's been making, it's going to be a hard sell because of how he's played his injuries, because of his willingness to sit to the maximum. And that's really what it comes down to. The reputation of him willing to sit no matter what puts you in a position to not want to give him a 4-year deal. And put you in a position to not really want to commit to him at all. And I would imagine he saw this coming, you know what I mean? Especially when the narrative started to arrive over the last several years that he just would not play. He should have seen this coming. So I think his representation is probably very wise enough to know that his price tag would take a massive hit eventually, and we're here. You know what I mean? And I think, to be honest with you, I think Kawhi Leonard's been given a lot more leeway for those injuries and for some of the stuff that we've talked about than a lot of other players would. Some of these players would have been blackballed by now if they would have did what Kawhi did. It just is what it is. Um, he's an NBA champion 2 times over, and I think that's brought him a lot of respect, and rightfully so. When you deliver, you deliver. But how much better would his career have been if the injuries weren't in place and if he would have been on the floor more, however that played out. And that's it. Narratives are easy to buy into. You know, I bought into some narratives as of late. I found myself saying, you know what, that's a narrative, that's not necessarily what could possibly be the case. But at the end of the day, we only go by what we're told. And the narrative surrounding Kawhi Leonard is that he is fine with sitting no matter what the injury is. If it's the very slightest injury, he's going to take the maximum amount of time off. And that just hurts the team of that year. Whatever the unit is that year, the less Kawhi they have, the less continuity the team has, because everything pretty much revolves around him and Paul. So with Paul being just as absent, that's just even more so doubling down on the need to make a move at this point. If he were a more steady piece, then obviously you feel great about trying to replace Kawhi and just continuing to go forward with the timeline. But since both of the stars have this issue, moving on seems like the most reasonable thing. So that's where we're at, man. That is where we're at. I don't know if they're looking to trade Kawhi Leonard. I don't know if he's demanded a trade request. And I've told you guys over the last couple of days that I think that there's a good chance you don't see any trade demands anymore. I would argue if everybody's paying attention and knows what the hell they're looking at, Dame Lillard should be the last trade demand, period. Public one anyway. People are always going to trade demand, but they shouldn't do it in public if they actually want to move. So I think we'll see people traded it like a thief in the night, and I think this could be one of those situations where you see Kawhi Leonard get traded without anybody saying anything about him getting traded. Because that's the only thing left to do. If you're not going to pay me, I'm out of here. That's kind of how that goes if you're Kawhi Leonard. In my mind, I'm too big of a cachet of a player. I'm not going to acknowledge my absence because I think I'm going to be able to play 82 games next season. Now, granted, me trying to convince you of that if I'm Kawhi Leonard, it's probably going to be very difficult, but that's not the point. That's the stance I take as a Hall of Fame 2-time NBA champion who's trying to get a 4-year deal. I'm not going to be allowing you to blackball me for my absence. Now, I'm not going to be willing to just go along with that narrative. So I'm likely going to be getting out of the Clipper land very, very strong, looking for somebody who does want to give me a 4-year deal if I'm Kawhi Leonard. And one of these owners will likely want to do that. Somebody's going to believe in Kawhi Leonard and will take the risk. I really believe that. He is actually that great and proven of a champion to where if anybody else had the injury issues in these type of narratives, I don't think so. But with him, yeah. Somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to do it. So that's why I would shop him. I would shop him because I think you're going to find somebody who's going to bite. Maybe it's a Toronto. Maybe it's Milwaukee. Maybe it's Philly. But somebody's going to bite on Kawhi. Maybe it's Miami. I don't know. But somebody's going to bite on Kawhi. And that's another thing we were talking about last night. Miami Heat. I think they need to pivot away from Dame into other trade scenarios so they can come back with something that they can say they have in place to move the same package elsewhere. I think Kawhi Leonard now in this situation could be that target for Miami. If I can't get Dame, maybe I go after Kawhi for a lesser price. Yeah, I like that. If I can get Kawhi to play, obviously him in Miami is fantastic next to Jimmy Butler. Bam, that's amazing. Probably better than Dame if he's 100% healthy. I mean, I think it probably is a better fit than Dame in some ways. So, yeah, man, I don't know if Pat Riley's interested in signing up for that. I assure you, if I'm Pat Riley, I'm not. But that's not the point. The point is, it's not about what's in Brandon's brain. It's about what's going on in the field and how people view Kawhi Leonard and what they want for their teams. And a team like Miami, they are incomplete, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to get the Dame deal. Maybe they should pivot somewhere else. Maybe that's something they can do. So, yeah, that's something to kick the can on if you're Miami, in my humble opinion. And there's just certain teams out there. I look at a team like Cleveland. I don't know that they have the salary, but I would love to see an addition of a player like that to the situation. Um, they probably don't have the salary for that, but these are the type of things I would be looking at if I was Kawhi. A dark horse like Golden State, since they got the old man roster going on up there, and they do have a couple young pieces they can send out of there. Maybe they can just go all in on that timeline. Send Kawhi up there to play with Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and God knows who else they got up there in that Golden State team of old people. Again, salary issues, but these are the type of fits that I think Kawhi Leonard to go to, slip right in, have a good year, whether he plays a lot or not, and everybody on the same page with the timeline, age, expectations, etc. Because the last thing you want to do if you're Kawhi Leonard is go to Houston, go to Orlando, go to a young team, and then miss a bunch of games while everybody's waiting for you to come back and lead somebody to a championship. It's just not the way to go. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking to make a trade for Kawhi Leonard as a Laker fan. The absence is going to be a problem. The salary is going to be a problem. The 4-year deal is going to be a problem. In theory, you would love to be able to swap D'Angelo Russell for Kawhi Leonard, but at the end of the day, that's not something I think Laker fans will be open to at this point. I don't think so. I just don't think so. Somebody mentioned, I think it was on Trevor Lane's podcast yesterday, that, would we be getting Paul George? No. I don't think anybody from Clipperland will ever put on a Laker uniform, not in this era. It's just, it doesn't look like that would even be possible with the salary circumstances more than anything else. So yeah, that I don't see the Lakers having any interest in that. But as far as those guys, I would not want to leave Los Angeles, put it like that. The first thing I'd want to do is say, hey, Lakers, you got a spot? No, we don't. We good, y'all. Y'all wanted to be here. Y'all should have played nice 2, 3, 4 years ago. Y'all shouldn't have even went that route against us. But yeah, it is what it is, man. I look at the Lakers and I say, we are in a very good spot in regards to our position against the Clippers, per se, because we are in a spot where we have young players. We got a core that, even though it has its injury issues, it just came from the Western Conference Finals. If you're trying to keep up with us, you're wasting your time. That's what I would say to the Clippers. You don't have a better roster than us at this point. You don't have a complete circumstance to really get to the Western Conference Finals from where I'm sitting. You don't have enough assets. And so that's what you need to do. Go ahead and turn some of those players that you have that still have some value into whatever it is they're worth, and use the cap space to bring yourself some assets that are actually tradable. Because as long as you're sitting on Marcus Morris at $20 million, that's right there is a big part of the problem. And I'm not saying that I'm certain his contract is $20 million. It's just somewhere in that range, which needs to end if you're trying to win. So that's my thought on that, man. I'm not. Obviously, I'm a Laker fan who hates the Clippers to a degree. I mean, it's no degree; it's to a high degree. But at the end of the day, every time I talk about these teams, I'm interested in seeing things done correctly. And like I said so many times, they got this new building opening up down the street. It looks great. There's no reason for them to be going into it with old players from yesteryear. Guys that may only play 30 games a season. You're spending maximum amounts of money for that. That's such a bad anti-climatic way to cut the tape on that building. I really believe that. And if I were Ballmer, I would be doing everything I can to assure that it ain't happening like that. I guess I told you guys on draft night, I would have traded some of them dudes for some of those young guys. I would have done that. I probably would have tried to. As soon as I saw Cam Whitmore's value falling, I probably would. If I were the Clippers, I probably would have made a trade for one of those picks and grabbed him. These are the type of things that I'm just thinking, because maybe in a nutshell, you don't want to go all in on a random draft for some random players at the highest point of that draft. But when you're in the Clipper situation and you don't have assets that are tradable, it probably is a good idea to maybe make a transaction like that and get yourself one of those players. I do like the acquisition of KJ Martin. That's a good step in the right direction there. KJ Martin, Kobe Brown. I like that. We're talking. So they just need to keep going in that direction. You know what I mean? Keep going in that direction. Get away from the old dudes. Get away from the Covingtons and Batums and Morris. None of that is going to help you anymore. Those guys got to get the hell out of here. And you got to put yourself in a position to have young, tradable talent. Young guys that fit that Kobe Brown, KJ Martin, Terrence Mann timeline. That's it, man. Everything else got to go. Fire sale in LA. My name is BL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.